This broadcast brought to you by Alltech, naturally.
Delighted to be here. As you can see, we're going to be talking about millennial food trends. In the interest of the short amount of time that we have together today, I'm going to be very, very focused. I'm going to talk about 5 major trends as I see them impacting animal agriculture opportunities going forward. I'm going to talk about implications. I do want to say, though, from the outset, I've been monitoring trends now for a couple of decades. I hate to admit that, but it's true. What's said in this room stays in this room. I don't believe I've ever seen a time when there is better opportunity for animal agriculture. I don't believe there has ever been a time, for as long as I've been monitoring the business, that the prospects are as bright for your products as they are today. You do have some challenges. I'm going to touch on those as we talk about how to court a millennial audience. Here's my agenda. Let me start with some very good news. You all know about this. Oh, we love protein, right? We're in the middle of a boom. We cannot consume enough of the stuff. Please take a look at some of this data. Retail grocery introductions, protein-driven foods, 54% in the past 5 years. Retail grocery is a mature segment. It's been growing over the past 5 years, 1 to 2% a year. There are analysts who say that the 2 categories on the right, Greek yogurt and energy bars, both of which are protein-driven categories, have been keeping the grocery segment afloat. Take a look at the restaurant numbers, also jumping very, very high. What's with protein? Well, I don't have to tell you. It represents satiety, right? We feel satisfied. It builds muscles. It gives us energy. But why now? Why now the excitement? Well, I'll tell you if I can move forward here. Next slide, please. I think what's happening, and I've not seen data to support this, I think what's happening is, you know that there are 3 macronutrients, right? You have proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. You know that fats are very, very distressful to most consumers. They're really verboten, right? And what about carbohydrates? Oh, they're so confusing. They're simple or they're complex. They're good or they're bad. They're gluten or they're not. And who knows what gluten is, right? So that becomes an issue. What does that leave protein? It leaves it seems to me, the good positive macronutrient. 57% of consumers say they'd like to have more in their diet. And the bar chart says these are consumers who specifically now are looking at the labels, what they buy, to see the protein content. The opportunity to sell protein enrichment, next slide please, going forward, speaks directly, it seems to me, to opportunities with the millennial marketplace. Here's where the dairy industry has moved. Please take a look at the nomenclature here. Protein Fight Club. Who are they talking to? They're not talking to me. They're not talking to me, folks, but they're talking to the millennial audience, and specifically the young millennial male. Restaurant chains absolutely on board with this as well. In fact, virtually all what we call QSRs, quick service restaurants, have built their business on catering to young male taste. Well, look what Taco Bell has got in test market. Look at the nomenclature here. Power protein, boom, right? And look what they divulge on the menu. How many grams of protein? The caloric content. This is very much not just on trend, but I think ahead of the curve. So going forward, it seems to me there's tremendous opportunity for you folks in the agricultural community, animal agriculture community, to exploit protein. This is not without some jeopardy. You know that the whole fat issue has certainly gone up for grabs in the last quarter, but do pay particular attention to saturated fat. What's great about what you represent, though, is the second bullet. It's about addition, not subtraction. What does the American consumer hate? Right, here's what I hate. I hate it when I get addition. It says, we took out the salt, we subtracted the fat, we've subtracted the sugar, What does that mean? You've subtracted, right? The taste. So what does the consumer respond to when you've put something really good in? Nutrition and protein pack. Watch for backlash. Watch for backlash. You know that when anything is hot, as protein is hot, there are going to start to be now counter forces, and studies will be generated on all of that kind of stuff. Stay tuned into it. And do expect some changing guidelines. You're probably reading this as well. But there are some scientists who say we need to up the protein requirements, particularly not so much for millennials, but for aging baby boomers. So keep an eye on that. And think also about gender segmentation. Have you guys seen this? Do you know, Brogurt is not the brand name, but I love the expression Brogurt. This is yogurt now, positioned specifically to a young millennial male. Who in the grocery store talks to young men? Nobody except the beer folks, right? If you want to sell Greek yogurt, who do you sell it to? Well, according to Jamie Lee Curtis, a bunch of middle-aged women with digestive problems. What is that? Please, so now look what we've got here. The brand name is Powerful. You can see it on the package. It's not this little tiny 4, it's a manly, this is 8 ounces. My little lady hand could hardly hold on to it. Look, it's black. And can you see the iconography? It looks like a steer. Did that yogurt really come from that steer? I don't think so. But here, and it says 25 grams of protein. There's going to be more of this kind of stuff going on as you segment the millennial audience. Do pay attention for opportunities. Here's another potential opportunity. It seems to me it's certainly on fire in the food world, and that is the whole phenomenon of snackification, which speaks to the fact that we're all so doggone busy 24/7. We're all wired. Millennials in particular are not tethered to the notion of 3 square meals a day, right? So the bar charts say that 52% of Americans now say that they will replace a meal 1 to 3 meals a day with a snack. So we're snacking in lieu of meals. Only 5% of consumers on this chart say they never snack. Now, millennials are super snackers. They're not the only ones, please, who are time crunched. But certainly they are absolutely multitasking, and they were raised on the notion of convenient food on demand. They have perfected the art of grab and go, and they value fresh, real, and less processed foods. Quickly off the slide, they also value over-the-top crazy, right? And they'll continue to. You all know that KFC just reintroduced the Double Down. You know what that is, right? No bun, 2 fried chicken breasts with all kinds of stuff crammed in between. That's going to this audience as well. So you've got this bifurcation, but absolutely fresh, real, less processed. Here's an entrepreneurial group that's been getting an awful lot of press. This was from the Wall Street Journal, Nature Box. 2 young tech guys, they are millennials themselves. This is bypassing conventional retail distribution. This is home delivery now of snacks. They're at about $3 million in sales. You allow and it's a millennial audience primarily, to customize. They have 120 different options. You pick between $20 and $50 worth of options. Once a month you get it delivered. And in the meantime, they are building a huge database that they expect to mine for further adventures in the food business. The opportunity exists also if we're talking about conventional retailers, whether it's grocery store retailing or supermarket retailing, to move on to the next generation of protein snack. In other words, we've already got the yogurt and we've got the snack wraps on the restaurant side. Well, what's next? I mean, you've got to push now forward in terms of getting better distribution on newer products. What's it going to be? Protein plus something, maybe protein and veggie, or protein. Is it going to be a specific kind of functionality? Will it be a different kind of delivery system? I don't know, but I do want to tell you I think that there's opportunity going forward. Now, what it means, though, I think for your community is you need to rethink your center of the plate mentality. Right? I mean, I think most of you think about going to market in terms of the entree, the main dish. Now we're talking about rethinking packaging, portioning, even positioning. when you're considering that second generation product opportunity, what's next, remember the emphasis here, because you can deliver it all. Millennials want good, and they want good tasting. You've got nutrition, you've got flavor, you can deliver on convenience. The last point, though, here, I think is something to watch. It's easy to get caught up in sort of the trend of the moment, and snackification is a big trend. It's not a flash in the pan, but recognize that the millennials, the folks that you met on the stage here earlier today, have not formed households yet. Once they mature, begin forming households, to what extent will they move back to more conventional meal patterns? I don't know. I suspect that longer term you're going to see, again, I'm going to use the term bifurcation. We're going to continue in that 24/7 mode, so snack and grab and go will be important, but you're going to see a gradual re-emphasis as well on, I'm going to use the term 3 meals a day, more conventional in-home consumption too. So, proteins in the plus column. Snacks, absolutely in the plus column. Challenges, sure. I don't anticipate spending much time on this because you've heard so much about it already today. But I track food trends for a living. Food activism, absolutely. I've just put some buzzwords up here, and I could go on for pages with the kinds of phrases that recur. Nobody in the agricultural community knows about this better than you folks as animal issues, whether it's cage-free or gestation crate-free or free range or whatever it is, has moved to the fore, and you're really being impacted at all chains at all links of the food chain, right? I mean, you folks that are producers are impacted, and the processors and manufacturers, and all the way through the retail channels as well. And this level of activism will continue to percolate. But as you know, the super hot button at this moment has everything to do with GMOs. You know that the governor of Vermont has a bill on his desk. It's been passed there. It's the first state to pass legislation. When he signs it, it will require any food products that contain genetically modified ingredients to be so labeled. That's going to really be a serious hot button issue going forward because, of course, you've all been tracking what's been going on with General Mills. When a group called GMO Inside ran a digital campaign, hello, Facebook, hello, YouTube, who are we talking about here, right? This was millennially driven, forcing General Mills to remove genetically modified ingredients from their flagship Cheerios. Have you heard the rest of the story? In his most recent quarterly earnings call with the Wall Street analyst, the CEO from General Mills said, by the way, our sales of Cheerios are down since we removed your meat. Why? By the way, he didn't say. I bet I can guess, and I bet that they are doing massive amounts of research, but you know why, right? Consumers don't know what a GMO is, for the most part. But they do know what it says on the package, I took something out, right? It's that subtract. You've done what to my favorite cereal? So I suspect that we're going to have a bit of a shakedown period. This is not going to go away, though, as you know, because of everything that we've been talking about so far. In a wired world, everybody's a journalist. We heard about mommy bloggers already once today, didn't we? I mean, this is a whole industry, and there are conventions of mommy bloggers. There was a program in Atlanta, where I'm from, and it's been in the last couple of months. For $1,500 a day, the mommy could sign up and learn how to be a mommy blogger from people who'd been very successful. Well, yeah, but who are these people? What are they conversing about? What's happening in their environment? I mean, the cattlemen certainly have learned firsthand what some of the consequences here can be. You know, on the left, it's been a couple of years now since a chef on TV talked about what he termed pink slime. It went viral onto YouTube, lean, finely textured beef, LFTB, and was picked up on the right by a mommy blogger who forced the USDA to change its beef practices with regard to supplying school food service. If any of you read the editorial in the New York Times, which was a real friend to the cattlemen during that whole debacle, the bottom line, this was an editorial page, a Sunday editorial page in the New York Times, was the only consumers hurt by LFTB were the 650 people who lost their jobs at BPI. Fasten your seatbelts, because this is going to be going going to be part of an ongoing issue here. Speaking of who communicates well with millennials, you've already heard about Chipotle today. I've got some screenshots here. This is from their Scarecrow, which was an ad that went digital. It was broadcast to digital last year. This year, they went strictly digital with a 4-episode, what they call the comedy series. It's called Farmed and Dangerous. And the quote here at the top describes this comedy, which takes a look at outrageously twisted, and utterly unsustainable world of industrial agriculture. You folks have got to get yourself tuned into these conversations. You need to stay ahead of hot-button issues, whether it's GMO, whether it's LFTB, the old irradiation mess that you've been through, and absolutely antibiotics and hormones. Absolutely antibiotics and hormones. Enlist the support of appropriate advocates and spokespeople, and by that I don't mean anybody from the government, and I don't mean anybody from your own professional organizations. You're seen as biased. Recognize what you've already heard from the stage just a couple minutes ago. Joe said much of this is emotionally driven. Pay special attention to kids and moms. Special attention. All right, I'm going to finish with some good news. I know that's kind of hard news, but I've got some good news. This may not seem like good news going in, so just bear with me. We're in the throes of veggie chic. Oh, this is good news for you guys. Why is produce so hot? And believe me, it's very, very hot. Well, price sensitivity, a volatility at the center of the plate. There's now, by the way, some real volatility, as you all know, in the produce category as well. But volatility at the center of the plate means all of these chefs now, with all of their great ideas, and consumers, they know consumers are concerned about health. And so how are we going to take these products that are readily available to us in lots of options and make them attractive? I'm going to just give you 3 quick examples, and then I promise to deliver the good news. The biggest trend in the business right now from the vegetable point of view is cruciferous vegetable. Really? Cruciferous? Those are the veggies everybody loves to hate. You know, those are Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage. Really? How are you going to make that sexy? Well, if you're a chef, you know that the American consumer will eat anything if you put bacon on it and throw it on a pizza crust, right? Absolutely anything. The only thing better is a bowl of pasta. Right, so look at this. Here we've got Brussels sprouts pizza. How else do you get the consumer to eat it? You throw it on some wonderful crusty bread. You treat it as if it were an animal protein. Look at how thoughtful this is. Fresh mozz? Come on. Look at the condiments here. Oh, this is wonderful. How about this? This has been all over on the independent restaurant side of the business. Everybody's been doing cauliflower steak. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but who wants a cauliflower steak, right? So, well, okay, you chicken fry it. Okay, well, that makes it all the much better. So, why am I so excited about this on your behalf? Well, simply because veggie innovation does not equal a rise in vegetarianism. We say that again, that's important. Innovation around vegetables, around produce, does not represent the end of protein consumption, animal protein consumption. In fact, I know you folks track Meatless Monday. It's been interesting for me to see this is going into its 11th year. Powerful backers. As you know, it's had a bit of a struggle. Last year, the House of Representatives formed a vegetarian caucus. They tried to do a Meatless Monday. Well, no, that went nowhere. School districts, interestingly, I think San Diego is the largest school district now to try a Meatless Monday program. They've got about 109 schools, 135,000, I think, students. If you talk to the school food service directors who have the hardest job in the world, they'll say to you, the reason I consider this is not because I have any problem with meat. It's because if I give the kids meat, they will never eat produce. The only way, and you know they're under the gun in terms of childhood obesity, the only way to get the kids to eat the produce is to remove the meat. The important point, though, again, I'm talking millennials here is the last point. The majority of colleges and universities, this is where millennials live, right, can't get this thing off the ground. In fact, they won't touch it. Why? You see why. Students feel like we're regulating their choices. We really can't afford to have that kind of protest on our hands. We've got to keep them coming into the cafeteria. It sounds like we're taking something away. Rafi Taharian at Yale Dining, a wonderful, wonderful, talented guy. He's actually increased the quality of the meat that they're serving. It's not a question of taking the protein, animal protein, away. This interest will increase. It's terrific. I mean, it's just terrific because what it reflects is the desire for good food. It reflects the desire for good food. AMI, FMI just did a study that showed, however, that meatless meals were the least popular way to save money. So when we're talking about good food and we're talking about vegetables, we're not talking about homemakers or restaurateurs cutting people off from their meat supply. Rather, what we're talking about is a shifting priority that favors foods that are seen as clean, whole, and real. Clean, whole, and real. This is where you guys come into the picture, it seems to me, because going forward, we are looking at a major sea change in terms of consumer attitude and usage of foods. This is maybe the biggest trend that I've seen in all the time that I've been doing this. The embrace of real food, typified, as you can see here, by butter consumption. Woo-hoo, everybody. Isn't this great? The comeback of real butter. Hello, for chefs on the restaurant side, it probably never went away. This going hand in glove, every year I do a state of the plate. Last year, the ingredient of the year, eggs. I could talk to you for 3 days about it. I won't, but I could. Egg dishes, fantastic. Fried chicken, don't even get me started. It is exploding. It's wonderful. It's because it's real food, and it represents the way that consumers want to eat today. Nose-to-tail cuisine. As we move through the recession, you know that young chefs in particular began to emphasize using all of the animal. It was frugality, but it became very, very trendy. And butchers have become kind of rock stars in a lot of markets because they have so much in common with chefs. They typically, when they're seen in public, they're in wonderful, pristine whites. Yeah, here's on the left, this is a part of a small chain dedicated to butchery. This isn't going to be a huge segment, but if you go into one of these shops, you want to just weep because the meat case is so beautiful. It's like looking at jewelry. In contrast, ladies and gentlemen, to when you go into the standard supermarket and you take a look at the meat case and it looks like a hospital room, right? You know what I'm talking about. That's part of the romance here. This is part of the romance as well. The rise of farmers markets. They've been on a strong growth curve. As of last year, the growth started to bottom out in some markets. They're getting a little bit overbuilt, but it's the whole notion of the consumer now wanting some sort of reassurance because food has become so politicized. We're starting in some quarters to be frightened by our food. So this notion now of talking face to face with the farmer, while it's easy to satirize and Portlandia and all kinds of stuff, I understand, and I think you really can too, why consumers have been driven to this point. They're also, by the way, losing their love affair for the microwave. Isn't that great news? I mean, you guys have never, your products with the microwave, come on, how great that they're losing favor, they're not being replaced. The strong growth curve here in terms of in-home appliances, crock pots and toaster ovens, because they allow the consumers a little tiny bit of involvement, right? I'm not saying, please, I am not saying we're going to go back to scratch cooking, But the notion of seeing the food, touching it, adding the egg, if you like, is what's been driving forward growth in this particular category. So, going forward, the definition of quality food in this country is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. It seems to me that when we talk about real foods, there are some very powerful consumer drivers, absolutely millennials. But the even better news is it's baby boomers in tandem with millennials. That's important because the baby boomers, as you know, have the pocketbook power at this point. It's also, it seems to me, great news because from your perspective, we're talking about, again, goodness without deprivation. We're talking about animal proteins that are really efficient delivery systems for protein, for flavor. That's just great news. And I think, frankly, at this point, early in the game, it's good news that there are no standards of identity, right? We're all standing up here today saying, what does real food mean? This allows you, there is no USDA standard, to get in on the ground floor early to take control and begin to drive the definition and the conversation going forward. Major, major opportunity for you. It's not a road without obstacles looking ahead. And again, I've got to say, get control of this conversation regarding antibiotics and hormones. Don't let yourself be ambushed by it. But by and large, I'm going to take you back to where I started. From where I sit, the outlook for your products is as powerfully positive today as it has been at any time since I have been monitoring food trends.